Our subcommittee will come to order. Thank you to my colleagues for joining us. I know we'll have others who will later. I have two apologies to express at the moment. One is that we're a few minutes late in starting, and I apologize for that. The second is that my opening statement is longer than usual, but I think it's useful for us to put a bit of story behind how we got to the point we are today. So I'll begin with my opening statement. We'll recognize the ranking member, and then we'll turn to our witnesses. This subcommittee, which exercises jurisdiction over the U.S. Olympic Committee and amateur sports at large, is fully committed to ensuring the health and safety of all American athletes, and today marks our fourth hearing on an ongoing investigation. In January, this subcommittee launched an investigation to examine cultural and systemic issues regarding abuse in the Olympics, brought on by horrific revelations that former USA gymnastic team doctor Larry Nassar sexually abused and assaulted hundreds of athletes over a span of 2 decades, well after numerous survivors alerted authorities about his actions. We are proud of the courage and bravery demonstrated by the many current and former athletes we've listened to and spoken with over the past 10 months as they've shared their stories with this committee. The subcommittee's investigation is expanded to include all national governing bodies which govern each of the Olympic sports and the role of the U.S. Olympic Committee in providing guidance and oversight to better protect athletes. Our conversation with leaders of these organizations have focused on reforms that were part of the recently enacted Protecting Young Victims from Sexual Abuse and Safe Sports Authorization Act, and how each of their organizations have implemented these important protections. I'm grateful for the leadership demonstrated by Commerce Committee Chairman Thune and Senator Feinstein during our work to pass this bipartisan law. Through this, we have provided tools to help protect amateur athletes, and this committee will continue our bipartisan effort to bolster this work. I speak for the entire subcommittee when I say that the brave actions and testimonies of our young athletes have inspired and motivated us. This committee is committed to making positive change for these and all athletes, and the survivors we have been working with over the past several months are truly drivers of this much-needed cultural change. I apologize, my third apology of the afternoon. I apologize I was unable to attend the event earlier today with survivors from a number of sports sharing their stories and ideas for improvements. There are a number of those survivors with us at this hearing today, and I join Senator Blumenthal in asking that you please stand and be recognized. Thank you very much. We're honored and pleased by your presence. Since initiating our bipartisan investigation, and I appreciate the working relationship that Senator Blumenthal and I have, this subcommittee has held 3 hearings in which members of the committee and the American public heard from distinct witnesses panels on their experiences related to procedural missteps and collective inaction experienced within these misled Olympic organizations. Additionally, we've heard from current executive leadership within the Olympic movement on steps they are taking to address concerns that were identified by the subcommittee and highlighted by numerous survivors. In the first hearing, we heard testimony from 4 survivors of abuse across different Olympic sports who shared personal experiences about the systemic practices that have safeguarded perpetrators, not victims, perpetrators, inhibited victims from coming forward, and prevented victims' reports from coming to light. In the second hearing, we brought in leaders from USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University to provide testimony and answer questions as to how the rampant abuse by Dr. Nassar was able to perpetuate for as long as it did. Scott Blackman, the former president of the U.S. Olympic Committee, and Martha Caroli, the former national team coordinator for USA Gymnastics, were invited to attend but declined for medical reasons. Critical topics were covered in that hearing, including USA Gymnastics mishandling of critical medical records, failed communications to and within Michigan State University related to sexual abuse reports against their employee, and most important, the complete lack of cooperation demonstrated by Mr. Penny in his refusal to answer questions. In the third hearing, we heard from current leaders of the same troubled organizations regarding which aspects of their system and culture had changed, and how they plan to implement serious reforms moving forward. Specifically, we were joined by Mr. John Engler, interim president of Michigan State University, Ms. Suzanne Lyons, acting CEO of the U.S. Olympic Committee, Ms. Carrie Perry, recently the former president and CEO of USA Gymnastics, and Mr. Han Zhao, chairman of the U.S. Olympic Committee Athletes Advisory Council. I appreciated their updates in the hearing and continue to monitor the work that their organizations are doing to empower amateur athletes and prevent abuse. It is my belief that hearing from a variety of national governing bodies of different sizes, resources, and challenges is necessary to make policy recommendations as we move forward. As such, joining us today is Mr. Phil Andrews, the CEO of USA Weightlifting, Ms. Annette Kamet, President of USA Figure Skating, Mr. Tim Hinchy III, President and CEO of USA Swimming, and Mr. Darren Steele, CEO of USA Bobsled and Skeleton. We have also received written testimony and expect responses to questions from Mr. Steve McNally, the Executive Director of USA Taekwondo. I will conclude my opening remarks by reiterating the bipartisan approach that this subcommittee has taken in its comprehensive investigation. We are in consultation with law enforcement, with survivors and advocates. We have worked closely together to identify meaningful reforms in the best interest of athletes and their families. With that, I will return to the ranking member, Senator Blumenthal, for his opening statement.